Hello my friends, welcome to this comparison video talking about some of the most difficult scales that Rav currently has to offer. Obviously when choosing a scale, what you connect with the most is going to be the easiest for you to play. But as you're choosing what you connect with, kind of having an idea of what is inherently more difficult can be useful in making a selection that will be satisfying for you long term. So we're going to take a look at 4 scales that I deem difficult for different reasons, and also how they could be used by players in a way that makes them a little bit more accessible. So first up, let's look at the C blues, but this also applies to the D blues. So first up on our list is the C blues, and also the D blues is also applied to this. So the C blues is an interesting one because at its core, it's really just a C pentatonic. But because of the half steps on the 3rd and also the 9th note on the top, this completely changes the feeling of the scale and gives it that bluesy sort of flavor. Now, when you're playing it, you have the choice to just omit these notes. And it's going to give you kind of like a G pentatonic feel, except it's going to be in C. The half steps on this really challenge players because they don't feel like they fit with the rest of the notes in the same way that a half step on another scale might. It's almost as if you have to be tactful in your use of these. So let me give you an example of what this could sound like with them used tactfully, and I'm going to show you kind of what random beginner playing could sound like. Here we go. Sound example first. Alright, so as I said, the sort of spiciness of this scale is what makes it difficult. It's not so much that we're unfamiliar with the arrangement of notes, it's more that you have to be tactful in where you apply those half-step notes on the scale. But if you connect with it, I've worked with students that purchased this as their 2nd or 3rd instrument, and they had no problem picking it up right away. So if you think about it in terms of song-based playing, won't be a problem. Kind of aimlessly striking, it's not really going to work. So let me show you what aimless playing kind of would look like, or just percussion with no melody. Alright, so next up is a scale that I'm actually responsible for getting on the market. I was sent this instrument as a prototype, just to get an idea of what it sounded like, and I thought it was an interesting addition to their current scale list. It's not very close to the Onoleo, but it shares some of the same mysterious, sort of Middle Eastern Hijaz feeling that the Onoleo has, or Onoleo depending on how you say it. This is the B Arabian Nights. And again, this scale has a lot of half steps in it, so it's not as beginner friendly as other instruments, but again, none of these should deter you from getting it if you connect with it, because a person like myself that teaches in a song-based way can make you work with any instrument efficiently. So let's take a look at the B Arabian Nights. So the feature that makes this particular one tricky is the amount of half steps in it. And because of that, half step, half step, half step, half step. So because of all the half steps, you have to be mindful of how you play it. It's a little more difficult to just randomly pick notes. Particularly the 7th note makes this one a difficult scale. If you ignore that note, it's just a normal Hijaz scale. This is what gives it the Arabian Nights moniker. So it's an instrument that, again, is great for people that want this flavor, connect with it, and are accustomed to this. My background is in oud, rabab, saz, so I like the musical family that these come from, maqams, and all of that end of the world music realm. So I connect with this, but not everybody would necessarily connect. So let's take a look at what it sounds like. So again, without getting too heavily invested in the theory behind it, this instrument has a lot of notes that are half a step from each other. So that means from F sharp to G or from B flat to B. Because of that, those two notes clash. So you have to be a little more mindful of where you're going, and you also need to not include the 7 in all of your compositions, and you kind of put that in the right moment. It's not really part of the scale in terms of something you would use every walk up or down the instrument. Next up, we're looking at a scale that I really love, and I have a lot of music on, the B Enolia, or Onoleo, depending on how you say it. Okay, so the B Onoleo, or Onoleo, however people say it, is a scale that has more resolution than the Arabian Nights. It's in the same family, in the same window as Arabian Nights, but it has closure. And this was originally created by Pantheon Steel, so it was one of their instruments in their early lineup of handpans. And it's a really nice way of approaching a Middle Eastern sounding scale with that resolution involved in it. So I'm going to give you a sound example of that and how this can be played in kind of a melodic way, but also hopefully give you insight into how it could be kind of tricky. So let's take a look at the B Onoleo. So as I mentioned, this scale still features a half step towards the bottom of the instrument. That's still a half step. But as you go up, if you pick the same half step positions as the Arabian Nights, you can tell that it's not quite the same layout. And because of that, there's a lot of closure in this scale. So if I were to play something like it has closure because of the top note and also the sort of 1-4-8 relationship. So let me play a little piece on this that gives you an idea of something percussive but melodic that you can play. So as I'm sure you perceive from playing, this has a lot more closure. It feels like more chordal. You can kind of approach it in the way that you would approach something like the chord scale, finding triads and dyads that work together and stitching a piece together. This is a great scale for percussionists and for melodic players, but it's always going to have that Onoleo feel to it, which isn't a bad thing if you like it, but it definitely has a particular flavor. Last on our list is the F-sharp Incens, and this is a Japanese scale that's very, very unique sounding and probably has the smallest notes of all the Ravs, so let's take a look at that. Alright, last on our list, like I said, is the F-sharp Incens. This was a scale that has been offered occasionally on and off for a couple of years now, 3 years, 4 years. And it's a Japanese scale, so it's kind of in the same family as Akabono. And it has a very unique feel in that it has almost a Middle Eastern feel, but also a pentatonic feel. Because the notes are small, they're some of the tiniest Rav notes that they make, aside from the D Celtic. It could be tough for beginner players, but it's one that has a different resolution because the center note doesn't jump an octave down. It's actually the first note in the scale. So when you go from center to 1, it's just a half step away. So it's a little bit trickier because it's a different orientation than a lot of the instruments, but again, if you connect with it, you won't have a problem. Let's take a look. So unlike any other Rav available, this one has a center note that's actually the first note in the scale, which is very strange for a Rav. This scale, because of that, resolves in a different sort of way than other instruments do, but it's still accessible if you connect with it. It just takes a different approach. So let's take a look at a tune played on this. Alright, so what ultimately makes a scale difficult is not really the notes that it has, it's not really the number of notes that it has or the half steps or anything, it's how you connect with it. So if you're someone that connects with one of these scales, you're going to do fine. And also if you're really attracted to one and you know that it's a little bit trickier, find someone like myself that can teach you in a song-based way and you'll be able to play it without any problem at all. This is just pointing out scales that may be difficult to start with because they don't follow a lot of the same order that other scales do, like the Celtic, Kurd, Pygmy, D major, anything in that family. So enjoy these unique but difficult scales and be sure to try something new. Playing a harder scale or a trickier scale forces you to innovate and create new things, so it ultimately could be a good thing if you find yourself playing them and creating something new with them. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, guys, if you like this video, and I will see you next time.